school year due to the COVID-19 public health emergency. This waiver, number one, the waiver requirements of Wisconsin statutes 121.021 F and the administrative rules promulgated by the department regarding required instructional hours for students for the 2021 school year, only due to the COVID-19 public hearing emergency. Number two, waiver of the requirements of Wisconsin State Statutes 118.04533 and Department of Public and Instruction Code I 27.035 BB to start school prior to September 1, 2021 due to the coronavirus pandemic and the health concerns associated with the virus. Tom.
Yeah, so just to give a little bit of background about both 1 and 2. So number 1 was what we had talked about way back in maybe August, when we had talked about the school day length. Now, we didn't know how long we were going to be necessarily in this, releasing early plan, or even the other way, with having to shorten it potentially. We had no idea at that time. So what the state has done is they've allowed us to do this waiver that almost all schools have done, which is saying, because we are a little bit short with shortening that day to the 2:30 at the high school, dismissal time at 2:20 at the elementary. So we knew this back then, but we also didn't know if potentially we were going to be going back to full day. We didn't know exactly what that full year calendar was all about. So that's the first one, is just waiving that hours of instruction, and it's about as easy of a waiver as there ever has been. You fill out this forms and you guys approved it and they automatically approve it. The second one is for starting that last week in August on that Monday to have a full first week of school, which we have not had before. And so you can look at that. The wording was intentional, as that has how they've instructed us to word it for this year. We can phrase that in a lot of different ways. We feel it's best for kids to have that first full week back, especially in a year post-pandemic, hopefully post-pandemic, hopefully post-pandemic, that we can, really get started on the right foot and not start at a Wednesday or a Thursday and then come in 2 or 3 days and then have a 3-day weekend. So we have submitted that. This is what we need to do to finalize that. Any questions?
Do you think that they're going to legislatively change the start of school so that we can make that decision ourselves from this point forward?
I believe that there is bipartisan support for that, but I do not know if that's going to go through.
I would love to be able to start even that week before. We're in sports starting early August.
Do we have any public comment? I just want to make sure. Okay.
So how short on minutes are we, or hours?
For this year, I don't have that information right now, but Beth, can you look into that for me, please? Thank you.
And then you're talking potentially starting August 30th instead of September.
Is it the 30th or the 20th? The Monday.
30th and 31st.
30th and 31st. Yep.
Monday, Tuesday.
And that was approved by you guys. We just now have to seek that waiver for that. So we're following our steps. It's just takes this extra step. And again, what Angie's talking about is something that they have already had a couple of different hearings on, as far as the hangup is with the Department of Tourism, who obviously want us to come back to school as late as possible so they can elongate that summer as much as possible. So
Not because it's the right thing for education.
I don't think that we can argue about that one. No. But yeah, I think that again, this is the way we are going to go about this. And again, if you have any questions or concerns, we can talk about that. But do we have anybody? We typically, I guess you guys did this last spring. Did you guys have anybody online or virtual at that point in time? Okay, just want to make sure I'm meeting those requirements. So. Okay.
So we're planning on going back to school similar to our pre-COVID hours of instruction for 21, 22 then?
Yes, at this time, and I don't have those numbers directly in front of me. They're not. It won't be quite as long of a day, but it's very similar.
And does this affect our contract with our staff?
No. No, it just moves the days a little bit, because I mean, they're contracted, I mean, it would be.
This past calendar is still set on
Yeah.
188 day.
Yep.
calendar.
Still be 188.
Because they're not on hours and minutes, they're
Correct.
just on days.
Yep. And we, at this point in time, would not suggest lengthening that school calendar, where some districts are at this point in time, you know, and making more student contact days at this point in time.
So this will not add any days of instruction, it just moves the start date up. So we don't add any instruction for our students.
No,
In terms of
not right, not with the board approved calendar that was that last month or 2 months ago, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, something like that.
It also allows us to, if we have a bad winter, you know, not have that, you know, make up time that we might. It's better to go to school when you know the weather is going to be nice enough to go to school. Although we did have flooding one year, so I mean, there's
Yeah,
always
we
that
can't
as
really
well.
predict that.
It usually happens when a new administrator,
Don't throw that at me. All right.
Bob came and Keel came.
Yeah, yeah, you're not wrong, you're not
Well, I
wrong.
came during a pandemic. I think I think I win.
I think you win. If there's a winner, do we have?
That's winning, yep.
It doesn't look like we have to close this because we didn't call anything to order. Any other questions? Did you find that information, Beth?
I actually put it down.
Oh,
In the email, in my email? Yeah. Yep, I see it. Let's see here. Is that for next year?
Patrick,
Oh, I see the tab. Yep, sorry. Yeah, so we are looking at anywhere ranging, and again, because of your huge range of hours, we're 110 hours short at the elementary this year, 124 at the high school, when typically we run
Fairly close.
you're over 50, 60 hours usually. So I mean, it's a big swing, but as far as
We have
being
snow
short,
days, that's when we get really close.
the other thing is that we did not have in-person school for 10 days. And so if you, that has to
we
account.
do get to count those because we did go virtual, yep. We do get to count those. So that is solely based on the early release time that we decided
Okay,
way back in what seems like 10 years ago, but way back in August.
What a year.
Yes.
Matt came on, I think it's his fault.
okay. Anyone else? I don't know if anybody needs a break or not.
Hi, I'm Olivia.
You have been here before, but I just wanted to, we used to have name things, but we got rid of them.
That's Jason. He's hiding behind the mask again.
So I saw you out at the tennis match. How'd that go?
I only stayed for a little while, so nothing was concluded at the time of it.
There's one thing going on, so.
Um,
that's
that-
just down there.
Can you
Oh, thank
also share in the chat with the
I
link
don't know
for
yet.
Drew Howick
I-
later?
I think this one last game is a tiebreaker.
Unless, oh, that should be in my
Harry
board
Ryan
report
and
though, right?
somebody from another school. And they each won one set. Now this one's like determining who wins. the
Like, how many forcing?
There you go. Can you hear us now, Marina?
Excellent.
Awesome.
All right, it's 7:02, call to order. We'll have it known all board members are in attendance, either present or via Zoom. And we also have our senior rep, Olivia Ramsey, that's with us this evening. Thank you, Olivia, for coming. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mission statement, the Viroqua Area School District provides a quality education for all students that inspires continuous learning, positive relationships, curiosity, and compassion, and an environment that welcomes diversity while developing a respectful and responsible citizens. Election of officers. So we are going to start with, I'm going to ask for a nomination, and a second, and then I'm going to 3 times ask again. So is there a nomination for blank as president for the Viroqua School Board? Is there someone that is going to be nominated in that position?
I nominate Angie Lawrence as president.
Second.
Thank you. So is there anyone else that you would like to nominate for the president of the Viroqua School Board? Is there anyone else that you would like to nominate for the president of the school board? All right, with that, we will close that nomination. We do this as a group, correct, Beth? We don't have to voice vote individually?
You don't have to.
Okay, all in favor?
Do we first need to move to close the nominations?
Motion to close the nominations?
I move to close the nomination of elect Angie Lawrence as president of the Viroqua School Board.
And I'll second that.
With that, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And I abstain.
And
Alrighty,
you accept.
Do you accept?
and I do accept and thank you for your willingness to place me in that position. I appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. Is there a nomination for the vice president of the Viroqua School Board?
I nominate Mickey Kappa.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there anyone else that you would like to nominate for vice president of the Viroqua School Board? Hearing none, is there anyone else that you would like to nominate as the vice president of the Viroqua School Board?
I move to close nominations and elect Mickey Kappa as vice president of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Vicky, do you accept?
Yes, I do. Thank you all.
Thank you. Clerk, is there a nomination for clerk of the Viroqua School Board?
Nominate Robert Nye.
Is there a second? Is
Second.
there another nomination for clerk of the Viroqua School Board? Is there another nomination for the clerk of the Viroqua School Board? With that, is there a motion to close nominations?
So
Second.
Second. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Robert, do you accept?
Abstain and accept.
All right. Treasurer, is there a nomination for treasurer of the Viroqua School Board?
And I'm Amanda running as treasurer of the Viroqua School Board.
I'll second that.
Second.
All right. Is there another nomination for treasurer of the Viroqua School Board? Is there another nomination for the treasurer of the Viroqua School Board? Awkward, that's all I can say to this process. It is awkward. Is there another nomination?
I'll move we close nominations and cast a unanimous ballot for Amanda as treasurer of the Viroqua School Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Amanda, do you accept the position?
Abstain and accept the position.
Wonderful. Thank you all. And the next is there a motion to nominate for the delegate position at the school board convention and an alternate for the WASB convention?
I nominate Matt Toolen as the delegate and alternate as Kim Little.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor? I don't have to do that 3 times, do I?
No.
Thank goodness. Okay, all in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Do you both accept the position?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you for your willingness to serve, all of you. You're a wonderful, amazing group of individuals, so thank you for your participation with
You're
us.
already president. You don't have to brown those down.
Well, you're a phenomenal group of people, so thank you very much. Our district is very fortunate to have every one of you on this board. CISA 4 rep, the meeting is Wednesday, June 2nd at 6:30. Is there a motion to nominate a board member to the CISA to be the CISA representative to the Board of Control's annual meeting on June 2nd, 2021? Is there a motion for anyone?
Marina, the one that did that. I did it. You did it last
It
year.
was Matt.
Man, oh boy, see how far behind I am?
I nominate Matt.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are you free on
Is that
that?
where-
Are you free on that date? Because once you're nominated, you have to be there,
Yeah, we can't
actually. You
choose
can't
anybody else.
choose somebody
June
else.
2nd, right?
June 2nd at 6:30.
It should be. Yes.
All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nat, do you accept the position as
Yes.
presented? Thank you for that. Budget hearing annual meeting date. A motion to approve the budget hearing annual meeting date to be held on Monday, September 20th, 21. Is
So moved.
there a second?
At what time?
It doesn't have a time
We don't have a time yet.
Don't have a time. Time to be announced.
to be determined. Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Commitment appointments. I would like a motion to approve the board commitment appointments as they exist at the present time. Is there a
So moved.
motion?
And seconded.
Second, any comments or questions? And once again, thank you all for serving on all of these committees. It's good work being done. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, so spotlight on education. We have grade 4 heritage projects via Zoom. Mrs. Tonks and her students, Wolfgang and Evelyn, welcome to the policy of running a school board. That was more information than you probably ever wanted. So
Yes, I was messaging them. Just be patient, guys. We're next.
for some districts, that goes on for an hour. So thank you for your patience.
No problem. So I am representing our 4th grade class. Every year, the 4th graders participate in the Heritage Fair. And it's just kind of a culmination of studying about Wisconsin and trying to connect for kids the heritage that we are also proud of in Wisconsin. And so all of the 4th graders choose a topic, and this year we all researched a place in Wisconsin, and the students all in person and virtual researched and created a presentation in Google Slides. Since the regional event this year was going to be virtual, we thought that would be the easiest way. And then we sent a representative from every 4th grade classroom. So there were 4 4th graders that presented to the regional Heritage Fair on last Monday. So that was a great success. Krista Woodward hosted our students to do that, which we were very thankful for. And she reported back that our 4th graders were very well prepared and really represented Viroqua well. So we were proud of them at school, but even more proud when we found out how they compared to other schools in the area. And when we talked about Spotlight on Education and bringing kids to the board meeting, we decided it would be good to have a couple of our virtual kiddos come and present, since this has been their learning format since September all the way through. And so I will turn it over to my students. Woofie, would you like to go first?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so those of you at school can see our screen. Okay.
Yes.
Woofie, you go ahead, bud.
Snowflake ski jump presented by me. How did it all started? In the year 1922, the Westby Snowflake Ski Club was started with 5 men who wanted to boost the city and promote the sport of skiing. Early immigrants from Norway wanted to bring their favorite sport and transportation to Wisconsin. The Westby Ski Club was named by its original members. However, the club was renamed Snowflake Ski Club in the year 1925. Where it all started. For the first hill, a group of volunteers bought lumber, cleared trees and brush, and leveled off a hill on a farm located between Westby and Bloomingdale. Farmers hauled the lumber and horses were used to pull the wood up the slope. They built a 70-foot scaffold for a 21-meter hill at a cost of about $1,000. Here are some timeline of the Westby Snowflake ski jump. February 8, 1923, the first ski tournament was held. The club disbanded during the Depression and World War II. In 1946, the new 60-meter hill was built at Timber Coulee. In 1961, the club built a 90-meter ski jump. In 1980, the in-run tower was moved back 10 meters. In 1999, the landing hill was remodeled and the hill was enlarged to 106 kilometers. What does it look like? The hills and valleys of Westby are perfect for skiers. There is now a 118-meter Olympic-sized hill for the U.S. and the international competition. There are smaller hills at the site, including a 65-meter hill as well as 40, 20, and 10-meter hills for training junior jumpers. It's the 7th largest ski jump in North America. There is also a par 3 golf course and a clubhouse. At the top is an in-run where jumpers get speed. There is a jump and a landing slope. The outrun is the area where a jumper can stop. Why is it important? The Snowflake ski jump brings in a lot of tourism to the area as it draws big crowds, up to 20,000 in the 1960s and 1970s, but now only about 4,000. skiers from all over the world come to Westby, Wisconsin. We have a lot of Norwegian in Wisconsin, and this honors their heritage. Here are some special events of the Westby Snowflake Ski Club. The large ski hill meet is in February. The small ski hill meets are in January. The ski club is open all year. The golf course is open in the summer. Thank you. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions? So Wolfie, have you ever been there?
I never went up to a hill, never play ski in a hill, but I just saw a ski jump when we were driving in our family trip.
Very nice. You did a fabulous job. Does anybody else have any questions for Wolfie? I also want to comment on how you're dressed and the flag behind you. You look like a professional skier there.
Yes.
Very nicely done. Well, I think you did a great job. Thank you for your willingness to speak virtually. Would you like to give us any information about your virtual experience this year, learning?
Virtual.
How did you enjoy going to school virtually?
How do I like about school virtual learning? What I like about the school virtual learning is like I like about when I get help from my teacher, Miss Tunks, and she helped me some of my work. She was nice to me, and I just love her so much, and she helps me on my presentation.
Well, that's wonderful. You just did a perfect job. We're very, very proud of you. Thanks for presenting to us tonight. Are you going to listen to Evelyn?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Mrs. Tunks, would you?
I'm glad I don't have to speak.
The questions.
All right, Evie, are you ready?
I guess. Okay. The USS Cobia by Evelyn Walburn. An introduction. Get ready to dive into learning about the USS Cobia. The USS Cobia was a submarine that was used as a torpedo sub in World War II. It earned 4 battle stars, was retired to a boatyard, and is now in Manitowoc, Wisconsin. It was later turned into a museum. Manitowoc on the map. As you can see, Manitowoc is located on the peninsula of Wisconsin. On the map in the screen, Manitowoc County is the one in red. It is also right in Lake Michigan. I've never been there, but from what I have researched, it seems like a very interesting and historical place. A game of naming ships. Ever wonder how a ship, or a submarine, gets its name? Here's the answer. Ships and all sorts of vessels are usually named after naval heroes, states, towns, or even sea creatures. The cobia is named after a large fish, which is known to dwell in the Gulf of Mexico. They are large and have been known to be very feisty. Speaking of feisty, the cobia did a lot of fighting in her day. She took down many ships, including a Japanese-bound carrier ship transporting 28 fully armed tanks, and survived with barely a scratch. The building of a sub. To clarify, the cobia was most definitely not a sub sandwich. The constructing of the USS Cobia did not include the use of bread and pickles, but steel sheets and bolts. It only took about a couple months, with construction starting on March 17, 1943 in Groton, Connecticut, and ending November 28, 1943. She is 311 feet long, which is a little less than the size of a football field, with room for 16 bunk beds for the crewmates. It is long, sleek, and dark green with a deck-like structure for the crew to spot incoming vessels when above the surface. And since it was a torpedo sub, it has a compartment to store the torpedoes in. And an interesting fact, General Dynamics has been building submarines for the U.S. Navy for over 100 years. The Half-Submerged Museum. As you should know by this point, the Cobia has been turned into a museum. The museum contains artifacts, stories, biographies of some of the crewmates, and lots more interesting things about the Cobia. One of the things featured includes what is believed to be the oldest operating radar set in the world, along with many other functional features. If you have been wondering, the Cobia ended up in Manitowoc because an awards ceremony was held there for the submarines that survived World War II. And if you like a little spook, the Cobia is rumored to be haunted. I know, ghosts don't exist, but I have gone through some creepy stuff, so take it from me. There might be something that's on it that's not explained by a plaque on the wall. Oops. The floating place to stay. The Cobia is also a place you can stay. As you can see from the picture, it doesn't seem very comfortable. Imagine what it would be like for the sailors. More information on that topic in the following slides. They are charging about $41 plus tax, obviously, a night to stay there, and you can stay for over a month if you like. If you look closely, you can see straps in the photo. You attach these straps to the clips on the top, and you won't have to worry about falling out of bed. Life on a submarine. As we all know, the Cobia was not wide, it was long. But remarkably, they were able to fit 5 torpedoes, an oxygen tank, tons of other inner workings, and 16 beds within it. And with 17 people on board, you can imagine how hot it gets. I've only said just a bit of information, and it has already started to sound bad. I don't know about you, but going to bed every night would drive me crazy. My brain would constantly be full of thoughts of being sunk in the night, wouldn't yours? The great importance. I decided to research the Cobia because, first of all, I thought it was pretty fascinating that a submarine ended up in little Wisconsin. And I have also been thinking of becoming a nautical engineer. Nautical engineer explanation about the picture. The third and final reason, it has served in the military. The Cobia is important to Wisconsin for the same reason. Serving in the military will always get you recognized, but the Cobia also serves as a place for the children of Wisconsin to learn by visiting the museum. Well, here, have you ever heard of the Cobia before this presentation? This is why I wanted to research it, to spread the word about it, basically. And now you can too. Thank you for listening. Any questions you'd like to ask?
Anyone?
So are you going to go see the Cobia in Manitowoc?
Probably, at some point, yeah.
I've been there, it's cramped. Especially for somebody who's claustrophobic.
Anybody else have any questions? So Evelyn, I really appreciate your humor. It added a lot to your presentation. You are quite funny and clever, as well as giving all of the information about it. So thank you for not only teaching us something, but being entertaining along the way. What was your experience with virtual education this year?
Well, one of the things I liked is that you can do school while you're traveling. Like one of the 3rd graders, he has been traveling all over America this year and last year too, a little bit. But he is still able to do school since all you have to do is like transport your computer and your books and everything you need. So I think that's really handy. But I also just really liked it. I get a lot more free time, a lot more drawing free time and writing free time and playing. So I quite enjoyed it, but I also miss child interaction as well. So
Well, thank you for that. You really did just a fabulous. Thank you for giving your time this evening, and we look forward to meeting both you and Wolfie at some time, hopefully in the near future. Have a good evening. And Sarah, thank you so much for all of your dedication this year with these two amazing students, and all the time and energy you put in to have a student say that he loves you. It's pretty fantastic. So thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
All right. And you all can stay on as long as you'd like.
Yeah, I was just going to add one more thing of, you know, these two kids are awesome. My other kids are just as awesome as these two. But the parents that are cooperating with me, educating these kids this year are fantastic. Just, I am closer to parents than I've ever been in my 26 years of teaching. So it's really fun to have a direct partnership that we can give these kids what Viroqua does best.
Well, you're in people's homes every day, and you're in their cars if you're in third grade. Traveling all over the country with this.
Yes.
So
Yes, I could add to Dr. Seuss's book, Oh, the Things I've Seen.
Oh, thank you very much. I'll have a nice evening.
Thank you.
And next on the agenda, we have our senior student representative, Olivia. Do you want to stand up and tell us where you're going to go to school, what you're going to major in?
I'm going to UW Madison. I tried to math for a little bit. And I'm going to major in biochemistry.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, you are going to be missed. We appreciate your willingness to serve on our board. I know it's a little unusual this year, but thank you. Is there anything that you would like to add, or anything you would like us to improve upon?
I just want to, one thing that has really impacted me being in this school is, so I have type 1 diabetes. If you don't know me, I've been diagnosed since I was in middle school. And whether or not you guys know it or not, like, having the school be so flexible and like willing to help and accommodate me and my family has been really helpful. And like, I'll really miss that. And like the family that is our school.
That's lovely.
We'll always have juice boxes for you. know.
Driving through Viroqua, stop sign down.
So my youngest sister is juvenile diabetic as well at the age of 9. So I'm glad that our district served you kindly and lovingly and appropriately. So, thank you for those kind words.
Mr. Crest, you deliver?
No, but they're right outside of my office. And Mrs. Lear does a great job with the kids and connecting.
And thank you for sharing that personal experience. Well, you can stay as long as you want, or you can slip out. It's convenient for you. And we wish you so much success and only good things for your future.
Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
And if we could then move Drew up to the next agenda item, and where is he? He is number N. So if we could move item N up, or letter N. You can tell where my head is. Well, there were all these numbers. 12, number 12N. How about that? That's better.
That's a lot of numbers under.
Letters on the number.
See
It's
what
been a
I'm
long day
saying?
for all of us.
A lot of letters and numbers.
A lot. So, and then we can have Drew present next. So we actually said 7:30. I'm sorry it took us a little while, Drew. Thank you for your patience. If you could introduce yourself to the board and tell us about our conversation that we had and all of the great work that you do, please.
Great, thank you. How's the audio and video at this point? Good? All right, thank you. Yeah, in fact, maybe what I'll do is share a screen because it's part of it is the introductions. One moment, please. Great. Can you see that okay?
Yes.
So, well, good evening. First off, I'm here by invitation from Tom, who I have gotten to know over the last year as part of the new Superintendent's Academy, of which I am a resource through the WASDA organization. And it was during a presentation or two that I talked about this whole concept of bringing a community together and talking about the future and establishing a vision. And I think it was sometime in the fall, Tom said, you know, this is something that we might be interested in later on in the year. And I said, great, let me know when you think the time is right. About a month ago, Tom and Angie and I had a conversation. We talked about the concept in general. They felt that the methodology was sound, the timing was right, and invited me to be here tonight to talk a little bit about this methodology of community conversation and how it might be useful for you and your community. And I'm basically prepared to share some information with you and field any questions about this. So that's my intent. Is that align with yours?
Yes. Yep. Go ahead, Drew.
Okay, great. Well, just a little bit about myself. I'm originally from the state of Oregon. I went to the University of Oregon and studied group dynamics in the School of Communications there. And I actually was a teacher in a high school for 1 year. And I came to Madison to get my graduate degree and had every intention of going back to Portland, Oregon and become a teacher. And then life happens. And 35 years later, here I am in the Madison area teaching, but not in a traditional public education or college sense, which is what I thought I'd be doing, but teaching by working with adults in a lot of different venues. My background is in facilitation skills. I've written a book about it. So I'm one of those few people that actually am practicing what I went to school for in terms of college, which is designing and facilitating conversations. And for the last 30, 40 years, that's what I've been doing, is teaching leadership development classes and leading courses. Some basic questions, of course, that always come to mind when you bring a group of people together are these. And I started doing this with the corporate world for about 20 years. And then about 15 years ago, I was introduced to a school district here in the Madison area. The Board of Education wanted to engage their community in setting a vision. I had a process that I thought would be workable for them. They did that. And since then, I have dedicated most of my professional time to working with school districts. About 50 school districts over the past 20 or so years, working with a future search methodology, which I'm prepared to talk about tonight, but also working with boards and helping them increase their effectiveness, and advisory committees, boundary changes, anything that an external facilitator can help to do, and working with all sorts of districts throughout the state of Wisconsin and various associations that support it. So tonight we're here to talk about a future search methodology. This was a process that I was introduced to about 20 years ago, and it really resonated with me about the whole concept of how do you bring a diverse group of people together to collectively talk about the future, to help them discover what they have in common, what they want to focus on, and then how to make that vision a reality through implementation. And I thought this was such a powerful process. And that's when I started working with school districts and corporations using this methodology. And it's just, And Tom could probably make this presentation actually, because he's seen me do it both at Edgewood College, I think, and through the WASDA organization. But he too felt that this was a solid methodology, and may have even talked to other superintendents throughout the state of Wisconsin who have used it. And will attest to how powerful it can be. So it's more about the process, less about me. I just try to bring this process to work and make it work in every community. There are a handful of principles that guide this process. One is that you really work hard to get the whole system in the room. And the system in every community is different. If I were to go into Shorewood School District, suburb of Milwaukee, I could place a pretty safe bet that the system there, as they define it, and the stakeholders there are different than in Viroqua. And so one of the challenges and tasks of the board administrative team is to determine, what does the system look like in Viroqua? You know, who are the key stakeholders and players that need to be at the table, if you will, to have this community conversation? As an external, I don't know that information. I mean, I have a sense. I've been to the co-op, I've been to the cafe, I've worked with Organic Valley, so I have a sense of your community, but not the kind of sense that you do and your administrators do. So that's an important piece, is for each group to define what the system looks like in your community. Another principle that guides this is that we want to think globally, bigger, before we act locally. So that phrase that we're all familiar with applies here, is that you want to make sure people see the big picture and think broadly before they hone into specific actions and areas of focus for your school district. And as I mentioned earlier, the goal of all this conversation is to focus on the future and to determine what is the common ground. What does the community want and expect from the school district? What's the school district want and need from the community? How can these groups work together to create a more, better, and improved educational system for the students and for the community at large? And the last is that when you bring a system together, you want to make sure everyone relates as peers. And so you truly have a conversation with each other about the future. So 3 outcomes: shared vision, common ground, and action steps to get there. The beauty of this process is that you will have a shared vision and you will have common ground. But when you go into it, you can't always predict what will be the outcome. And that's one thing I think that makes this process so strong, is because if you get the right people in the room, and you have to define who the right people are in your community, they will, with the right process, figure out what the vision is and what the common ground is to move forward. And I've seen that in every instance that I've worked with. So planning, of course, there's the conversation, and then there's, of course, the implementation. I'd just like to show you a couple slides about each to give you a sense of how this flows. The planning of this is starts with you as the Board of Education and your administrative leaders. And it's getting together for an evening and to work on some of these items to start to give the directions. You're the sponsor of this as the Board of Education. And so it's your right and responsibility to figure out, what do you want to see as the outcomes of this? And then who are the key people and stakeholders that need to participate in order to make this a very productive conversation. So you are what I would refer to as a leadership team. And these are the outputs for you in that one meeting, which would be our first planning session if we choose to partner together on this. The outputs, the purpose, what do we want to see as deliverables? Who do we want to participate in what I'm calling a design team? And I'll say more about that. because we need to get the right people, leaders in the community together to help design this process with me. Provide them with the resources, and make sure we can respond to any inquiries about, well, what is this process and why are we doing it? Why are we doing it now, etc. So that's the leadership team. The next group that comes together is what I'm calling a design team. And these are individuals that you will choose at our meeting, our first meeting, who are leaders of the key stakeholders in your community. That design team should be a microcosm of your community. And these people will come together for 3 nights over 2 or 3 months to do these kind of things. And one of the key things is that they need to identify people in your community that are crucial to participate in this conversation and figure out how to get them in the room to give their gift of time to help you and the district figure out about its future. So this design team looks like this. This is in a district, and in this room right here, you have the mayor, the head of the education foundation, a teacher, a couple of parents, an elementary school administrator, a board of education representative, the superintendent, a student. This is what this community defined as their key stakeholders. And these are individuals that were considered leaders in their respective areas, well-respected people, people who would be great ambassadors to the larger community about this process. And as I mentioned earlier, this is the group that will come together with my facilitation, and we will work on the specifics of that community conversation and work on how to get the right people into the room. So that's the planning process in a nutshell. Then you bring the people together and you have a conversation. This conversation takes about 12 hours. It occurs over parts of 3 days. It's one conversation that occurs, and it's basically a past, present, future type of flow to it. And so the first part, when you bring people together, is you talk about the past. A lot of different ways to honor and respect the past. A lot of communities, and I suspect Viroqua is the same, has had some interesting history. Buildings have come and gone, changes in things that have happened in the community, in the schools, etc. A very powerful activity is having people to create a historical timeline of their past. And here you can see a group. This is probably about 100 people, which is fairly typical for this conversation, talking about the past, getting to know each other. What are the things that they remember that are relevant to education? Sharing ideas, recalling things, looking for themes about the past. It's a chance for your veterans to share their knowledge, and it's a chance for the newbies to learn. So you have a level set understanding of where we've been, not because we want to dwell on it, but we want to be able to build on our past and respect that past before we talk about how that influences our future, our present conditions, which is the next. And one of the very important conversations that I have found in working with many districts is that one, there's many, but one topic is to talk about the issues and trends that have impacted your community and your school district over time. And there's a lot of them. But what I have found is that when you present that question or something similar to that, you can see this is a typical setup for this conversation, that people around tables sitting in groups of 6 or 8 can have a conversation among themselves and get very specific in response to a question. And then they compare and contrast their responses to that question with the other people that are in the room. And there will be themes. They emerge about the issues and trends. And that's important information because we want the future, whatever that might be, something that addresses the issues and the trends that people in that room feel needs to be addressed. So this is a great way for a conversation to occur. And it occurs in small groups. And as you can see, people are using all sorts of high technology here, right? And that's by design. We want to have, make this a situation where people are comfortable with each other and willing to share their perspectives. And simple things like Post-it notes and pens, etc., is something that's not intimidating to people, but it's a very effective way to get out ideas and suggestions and information in a way that people can manage it and look for themes and patterns. And with regards to issues and trends, you can get all sorts of them out there, and you ask people to say, well, what's the most important or significant issue or trend that's impacted our district or our community over time? And we list them, and we hear from them, and we share them with each other. Then you start to focus on the future. And there's a lot of things you can talk about here, but one of them, in many districts that I work with, they talk about, well, what are the knowledge and skills that we want our students to have to be successful in their career, in college, or in their community? Something like that is fairly common framing question. And again, you have people, once you have a clear question, a process so that people can gather around in groups, share perspectives. Here's an example of students at one community having a conversation together about a question. And in the table next to them, the Board of Education might be having a conversation, the parents, the business groups, administration, etc. Different stakeholders having similar conversations. And again, they share their responses to the questions, and they compare and contrast those responses. And you look for themes, and themes always emerge. In this case, what knowledge, skills, and attributes do you have? And you start to hone in and say, well, let's focus in. Which are the most important attributes, skills, whatever the framing question is? And that becomes the elements of your future. Then you have to figure out, all right, now how are we going to go about creating that? You know, within a framework of within the next 5 to 10 years. How do we start to move to that aspiration, that future? And you basically ask groups of people to come together and present their information, their scenario. And they can do so by putting together visual diagrams. This would be an example of one. Or they bring in an enactment. In this case, some alumni of 50 years ago come back to the district and they spend time in the classroom in the community, and they're just amazed at what's happening today. And they're there to share their observations. Or you have people talk about themes that are really important together. In this case, the more solidified intersection of those three elements. Or it could be a mock graduation where someone comes from the class of 2030 and they're talking about what an incredible year she has had and the impact it has had on her to move forward in the future. So a methodology, a creative way of talking about the future. And as all of this is happening, everyone else is listening. They're listening for themes. What are the elements of the future that we are hearing time and time again? And as we listen to those, we get together and we talk about them, and we identify the most common themes and elements of the future. And we share those with each other. So a round robin sharing and tables. And again, we post them. We say, what are the themes we're hearing? And again, you can see we're using high technology to have people say, okay, of all these themes, which are most important to us here in Viroqua, which are the ones we really think would make a difference about our future? And every community I come working with ends up with a very clear sense of those themes. And they vary from community to community. Now, some of these might have been predictable by the board and administration. Others may be very different from one another. And I'm just going to give you a handful of examples of the kind of things that tend to emerge. And this last one is a community where they have done 3 future searches 10 years apart. They just did one 2 years ago, their 3rd one. And if you were to go to their 2nd one or their 1st one, you will find different themes that emerge because issues are different, times are different. So whatever emerges is our common ground, and that's the information that provides some direction to you as the board as you look at the goals that you want to set and the things that you want to accomplish for the future. That is based on the voice and perspective of the community, including the board. You participate in this conversation along with everyone else who chooses to be there. So different communities end up with different things, but all of them, and if you were to talk to board members or superintendents, these communities, they will speak to how this community gift has really helped them shape their direction. And the plans they've made for their priorities, because that's what this is all about, is shaping priorities. And then it's implementation. And now it's time to look at these, implement them or integrate them into your strategic plan, and doing your best to making sure you keep your community upgraded and posted and current on how their gift has helped shape your plan and where you are in your journey to accomplish it. The other thing this process does for you is that it widens increases the number of people in your community who better understand what you are doing in your schools. Again, these are shots of different groups that have spent 12 hours together talking about their future. And that is one of the benefits of this process, is that you now have more people who better understand the district and what you're trying to accomplish, and more ownership in it. They're much more supportive of it because they help to shape that in the future. So I'll wound this up and then we'll open up for questions. If we are to partner together, my job is to work with you, the leadership team, for that one meeting to do these things that you see before you. You will identify a design team, and then my job is to work with that design team to help them identify who needs to participate in this community conversation, validate the results that you as the board put together, make sure it makes sense to them. They'll work with me to develop a detailed agenda for this conversation. And then, as you can imagine, when you bring this many people together, there's logistical things that need to be addressed as well. And then the final responsibility is for me to actually facilitate this community conversation in whatever dates where you believe would work best for your community and that I'm available for doing. This isn't a quick fix kind of thing. This isn't trying to get buy-in on a predetermined strategy. But it is a process that, in my opinion, and in the opinion, I think, of most school districts that I've worked with, this is what happens when we have this kind of community conversation. So I'll pause there. It was a quick flyover, which is what Angie and Tom wanted me to do, to orient you collectively to this process. And I'll be happy to have a conversation with you now and answer questions. And of course, Tom or Angie, if you have anything you want to add, please do so.
Anybody have any questions for Drew or for Tom or myself?
The questions I have, Drew, would be, you mentioned themes coming out. How do you avoid some of the hot topics of the day in education or the hot trends that if people say, oh, you gotta have this. And it may be just a trend, or it might be something that it will last for 10, 12 years, or it may be just something that's coming out this year, it's a hot thing, and 3 years later, it's by the wayside. Maybe like everyday math or whatever that math program we had was.
Right. Right. Well, first off, I think we should expect to hear people voice some of those hot topics, as you mentioned. We want to acknowledge them. That's what's happening today. And then the question is, how many people in that room believe that that's not just a hot topic, but it's something that needs to be pursued for the long-term vision of your district? And so one person's idea of a hot topic might be someone's idea of a real critical component that will shape the future of the district. And that's where the common ground emerges. Because you're going to hear a lot of interesting ideas, some more interesting than others, right? But if you get the right people in the room, my experience has been that group will be wise enough to cipher the difference between a kind of flash in the pan kind of short term versus a long-term lift for the district. So I trust people to explore those things collectively and through their prioritization process, determine, where does it fit in the hierarchy of all sorts of possibilities.
So I do want to give a little bit of, kind of how we got to Drew, first of all. So, we've had, and, I feel, the board has grown so much, as I have grown so much over the past year, and some of the decisions we've been forced to make. But as we're going back through, and if we can try to relive some of those moments, even from the day I was hired to, when meetings we had back when we were doing our board goals and priorities for the year and everything along those lines. Priorities that you had this year: enhancing public trust through transparent leadership and engaging the community and providing opportunities for participation in long-range district planning. I don't know how we could find something that would fit those two of your 5 main goals better than this. And Drew was being a little bit, he wasn't going into great detail, but I do my research. I've contacted probably half a dozen superintendents that have gone through this process, and I'm not even raving. Just this is step 1 to becoming the district you want to become. Robert, and while I was listening to Drew for the 17th time over the past 12 months, your question that you have brought up a million times to me, which is, what does the future of education look like?
Million and one.
A million and one. I think this is, again, step 1 to really identify, right? Kind of looking at that again, and I love the global exploration before local action. We have to figure out what the expectations of our community are, not what our guesses are. We all have our own lens, right, on how we feel the community is going to react. No, this is getting the community together. And the other part about this that I really appreciate, and not that district administrators can't lead things like this, but it becomes my vision now. And that's not what we need. We need, what is the vision of the collective community for Viroqua area schools? Where are we going to be at in 5 years? Where are we going to be in 10 years? How do we want to be looked at in the community? And again, I don't know, were you recording that, Drew? Did I say everything you wanted me to? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But as we're going through, some of these things just kind of come together, where the dots connect, and everything, kind of feels like this is the step that we need to take. And I think that this is one of those moments, and really understanding, okay, how do we have that long-term strategic plan if we don't even really know where we want to be? And you're just guessing at that point. And then that's when you fall victim to some of those programs that they're going to solve everything. I see Deb in the background there. How many programs have you had that claim that they're going to solve the world, right? All of your problems, and how many of them actually do, right? And again, I think Drew is being very honest when, if you want a quick fix, this is not it. If you want the districts or the board's agenda, you know, and we just want to get people together and then just kind of push what we've already decided we want to become. This isn't the process. But if we really truly want to get everybody together, really know what the community wants, feels, and expects from us, I think this is a great opportunity.
And I can give an example. So we have thought that many of our students didn't have high-speed internet in their homes. We thought that they didn't, we guessed that they didn't. You know what we found out this year? A lot didn't. And we found that out last year. And so we think we know some things, and we were probably a little wrong on that, because I don't think we really appreciated how many of our students did not have some of those resources, and they thought they had a phone, but they didn't have a tablet, or they didn't, and they had other family members and that they were sharing all of this. So we learned some things that we probably should have known already, to really best serve our students, our families. So that's just an example that I think of, whereas if we would have had something like this, more dialogue, we might have had a better handle on that.
I'll also share that I think this is a great time, meaning within the next year, as I think about it, to bring a community together to talk about the future, because they're going to respond differently than a year, 2 years ago. They have experienced so many different things. You have experienced things. It's a great way to step back before you step forward and say, what are we learning that might have long-term implications for education? I think that's the timing is great. And the other thing that Tom mentioned to me once that I thought was significant is he said, mediocrity is unacceptable in Viroqua. It doesn't surprise me about that community in what I know of it. And so if you want to move forward in an aspirational way, and the community has high expectations of itself and all the institutions, including its school district, there's going to be, I think, a lot of excitement about this conversation. It's not a problem you're trying to fix in a short term, but it's a vision you're trying to achieve. And if you can get the right people in the room to help to create that vision, this can have a pretty significant impact, long-term impact on your district.
Anyone else have any questions, concerns, thoughts?
No question. I just like the approach. And I think you laid it out really well, Drew, in that it's a process. And it just alleviates the haphazard approach to trying to fix something that you don't know if it needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
And it does. It draws in the community, and it allows you to answer the why before it's asked as to why are we making changes, and again, taking whatever approach is there. It helps put that definition there. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ken, do you have anything?
No, I think it's a wonderful thing, and getting the broader community, which has become more diverse over the years. And I think that's great. I think we should do it, and it kind of goes in nicely with our other things, the facilities, and it's kind of putting the whole district, the whole package together.
Yeah, I agree. I like that it puts us in the listening spot and allowing the community to come in and talk and give their ideas and share, and being open to what they want to share with us.
Amanda? Nope. Robert?
I've seen these processes work with other organizations, and this plan and this type of thing is very successful in many levels, whether it's a non-for-profit, it's an organization for profit, it's this membership organization, whatever, or a school district. And I think as I've asked Tom 1,000,002 times now, that we really need to do something because we went through a year of, I don't know what we went through. And now we have to come out on the other side and we really need to engage our community as to what they want rural area schools to be. Not what I want, what the community wants.
Do you have anything else to add? I didn't call you specifically before. Anything else? I know you still. Okay. Okay. Drew, anything else you would like to add? Oh, Marina, I forgot. Thank you, Marina.
She just gave a thumbs up.
I'm sorry, did you have, I forget this whole Zoom thing, you know? I see Drew large and in charge. I don't see, you're like small up there.
I'm good. I'm good. Thanks for the presentation though, Drew.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Tom, for.
To your question, Angie, logistics come to mind. In talking with Tom, he was focusing on this next school year. It takes time to plan this and to make sure we get the right people in the room. 3 to 5 months from the initial planning session with the board to an event is not uncommon. There's a lot of things in the back that are needed to get the word out, convince people they ought to dedicate this time, et cetera, et cetera. We need to think about what time, what will work in the fall. Actually looking at specific dates, and I think, Tom, you might have been talking to your admin team about this, so we need to sync on that if we're to partner together. And then the next decision is, when does the board and admin team actually get together for their one planning session? And that probably has to happen within the next month if you are looking at a fall event. So we don't have to do it now, Tom, but I would say that, you know, some of those logistical things we need to talk through and see what works best for everybody.
Absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Drew.
Thank you. Well, you know how I feel about it. I would have liked to have done it, you know, a year ago. So we'll find a date that hopefully all of us can meet in the next several weeks, administratively, as well as you, Drew. Do you have, if you could send some dates?
Oh, yeah, he sent me an email just saying, hey, if we're gonna go to start looking at some dates. So we got some things to throw out at you. If you know, again, we do have this on here, you know, for approval, for the contract, and then once we have that, we can go ahead and get going as soon as you know we're ready to go, which is I mean, essentially, again, within the next month to begin that process.
Okay. So while we still have you, and it doesn't sound like there are any more questions, I entertain a motion to approve the district visioning consultant contract with Howick and Associates as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions?
Cost?
$20,000. Correct?
Yep.
It was in that document.
Could ask if he's worth it.
He is, right?
That smile says it all. Right?
I'm kind of biased on this one. So.
Any other questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Drew. Thank you for your time. We look forward to working with you in the future. If you could send some dates that work for you in the next 3 weeks, that would be fabulous. And then we can go from there.
All right, I'll do it. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew.
It's going to be wonderful. Thank you.
Pleasure.
All right, we will go way back. Way back.
There is no public comment.
No public comment.
Get X
There
out,
was, there
number
wouldn't.
10. Oh my God.
Is
Three more.
there a motion, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda, approve public notice, approval
moved.
agenda, April minutes, voucher summary in the amount of $193,587.13 as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Do you want to unmute yourself there?
I am.
Okay, I didn't hear you. I didn't want to exclude you again. I'm
I
sorry.
was I.
Okay, opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the voucher summary 2 in the amount of $258,969.72 as presented.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I abstain. Resignations. I entertain a motion to approve the resignations of Krista Tracy, speech and language pathology, 5 years. Kyle Schleif. Okay, high school, middle school choir director, 2 years. Jenna Sherry, grade 7 math, 5 years. David Moon, bus driver, 4 years, with thanks for their years of service to the district. Is there a motion?
So moved.
And there's a second. Any discussion? So thank them all for their years, and we're sorry to have them leave, but understand the circumstances and reading their letters of resignation. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the appointments of elementary school special education Jennifer Gaska, DAMS E1 teacher Ann Hartberg, middle school counselor Troy Rudeso, grade 7 math teacher Caitlin Hallerud, and Melanie Landowski, middle school track coach.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the 2021 summer school contracts as presented.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the 2021 summer school handbook as presented.
Skip
Overnight.
Oh, field trip, sorry about that. Motion to
make the
approve the
motion.
2021, too many of them. Motion to approve the 2021 summer school overnight field trips as presented.
So moved.
Second. Second. Discussion. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Now, entertain a motion to approve the 2021 summer school handbook as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Discussion. Riley, you're not off that easy. Okay, so I have a couple questions. I'm sorry. It was only a matter of time.
Let's get to know each other.
So well for so long. I had a question about masks. It says that the students will be wearing masks, but it sounds like in reading through the handbook that you're requiring masks outside. I assumed that that was not the case, but it read like you were having them wear masks outside.
They do now.
They do now.
Oh, they do now.
Yes.
Even when it's,
If they can socially distance outside and take a break.
Yeah.
But at the elementary school, we keep planning outside.
Oh, is that-
Even the guy doing,
I was
They're
thinking of
recess duty.
summer being so hot.
We will be meeting with the medical advisory team
Perfect.
to talk through this.
Perfect.
Riley, I just thought about it, and you should be invited to that meeting, so you can be a part of that and participate in that.
Yeah, it's like 95 degrees or something.
it's good.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Just wanted
We want to filter out
clarification.
that pollen.
I'm not judging, I'm just asking. And then another one was under the behaviors that were listed. I'm gonna share. So I have a son that in first grade would have cheated, playing every game that he was playing. Without question, he would have win at dead. He would win at all costs. And so I'm reading through this and I'm assuming cheating might be something a little different, like a test or something. But I just can't imagine severity being it was just different. So I was wondering and looking at those behaviors, if somebody's gonna be,
Of course, you could have it be a middle schooler or high schooler too, and that's maybe more apt to where that's problematic and not as much an elementary thing. That would be my guess. But you gotta
But it
cover them
doesn't
all.
separate.
No, it doesn't
them
separate them, but you
in-
gotta
in the
cover
handbook.
everybody.
Right, and so
But it
I,
does say it's a minors and it's just followed up by the teachers, so it'd be the teacher's discretion whether it's.
well, what if it went on and on and on? I'm telling you, my son would have
Your
cheated
son would be
every
out.
day. Every day, he cheated at every game he ever played.
I
And
think
he was
that
in elementary
they
school.
have the knowledge based on PBIS
Yeah.
to know
I think
the.
our teachers are well equipped to handle that, and I also think, you know, if, you know, they can't go further than that, then Riley will be there, ready to assist
I would
every day.
I hope he would
Angel
not be
Hernandez,
sent
you're
home
going.
and not go to summer school is really where I'm going with this. Because they are little kids, so. And then there was a spray hair dye. They can't spray hair dye.
She said gray hair and I was in trouble.
No, I have that. I dye my hair, thank you very much. So I didn't know why spray hair dye was something was unacceptable.
I'm not sure. that-
Yeah, I'm.
Yeah, it's, I'm
It's
sure
under
that that's just
attire.
using
It's
our
in our
formal
school
language.
handbook
Yep,
as
I'm sure
well.
it's just copying our formal language right now.
It has been for years.
Really?
So we can look, I will look into that.
Yes.
I've had experience with this.
How far back are you
That's what
going,
a man
Amanda?
was in school.
No,
No. I can tell you the stories.
So, yeah, we will look into that. I believe it's probably just straight from our side.
Yes,
Don't have it
that
in
is
front of
just
me.
what is in our
Our
student,
handbook.
our
Yep.
our handbook. our
I
regular
don't
handbook.
remember, I just don't know why it matters.
It's
Well,
in
I could see
there.
summer school, if you're using the pool possibly, because I remember my last district, we had the pool open like homecoming weekend. And then we would decorate hair and the pool was like a purple by the time the day was done, which probably isn't good on the filters. but-
Well,
Yeah.
my daughter-in-law is blonde. If she gets in the pool, her hair turns green. I mean, she's a natural blonde. So
So we will look into that for our regular handbook as well, but right now.
I would appreciate that, fantastic. And then I was also wondering why, if it could be perhaps added that all policies and procedures will be followed in summer school, just as they are during the regular. Does that fit? Because it didn't say anything about,
Like our regular, like school, the
Right,
handbook, regular handbook to be
right.
followed as well, is that what you're trying to say?
yes, I am in a very poor way, that's
Okay.
what I'm trying to say.
We can definitely look into
You
that.
could look into that. Okay.
And
Sorry
you can,
about that.
and as far as, you know, you're approving, you can say, you know, with the added statement.
And I'm just, if you see any of those changes, those were just questions that I had. So if I was gonna dye my hair.
Thank you.
Well, you know, the guy that Brendan knows just.
Brandon.
Supposed to know.
I don't know.
Yep.
I'll tell you about it later.
I hope somebody does. My kids used to spray their hair homecoming week every year. You know, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So thank you for that. Anybody else have any silly questions like I have? No? Okay. All right, motion to approve the summer handbook.
So Matt made it.
Wait, I
Kim
think we already
seconded
did that.
it.
All in
Oh, yeah?
favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Is there entertain a motion to authorize administrators to approve or deny applications for open enrollment to attend Viroqua area schools or leave Viroqua area schools to attend another district per the Department of Public Instruction guidelines?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Motion to approve the 21-22 overnight and out-of-state field trips as presented. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed. Entertain a motion to approve waiving the school fees for the 21-22 school year as recommended by the administration.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
We'll give it to Marina.
Discussion. All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the WIA affiliation for the 21-22 school year.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
discussion.
That's one of those we're forced to do every year.
Pardon me?
We're forced to do that. Unfortunately.
You know, it is. I agree with you 100%. They certainly didn't stand up for it and give us some leadership that would have been helpful. All in favor, vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Entertain a motion to approve the 2020-21 budget adjustments as recommended by the Budget and Finance Committee. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Second? Did I hear a second?
Yeah.
Okay. Amanda, do you want to speak to this?
These are just regular ones that have to be made throughout the year as budgets, things come through. I don't know, Mike, do you have anything else? Those are.
No, I think this is, there will be more.
Yes.
There will be more. You have to make sure.
It was discussed that Mike will not be present at the next meeting because of a vacation that he has. And so we may need to have a full board meeting prior, or Tom may present for some other option. So, and if we're going to be getting together anyway, we might add that to an agenda if we have a workshop or something. Just FYI. Any other questions? All in favor by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? And thank you, Mike and Tom, for all of the detail and information. I entertain a motion to adopt the resolution for school start date waiver for the 21-22 school year and hours of instruction waiver for the 2021 school year. Is there a motion? Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hopefully the legislatures will change so we will be able to adjust our start date from this time forward and allow us that flexibility. All in favor of vote by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. I entertain a motion to approve the policy update as listed on the agenda.
So moved.
Is there a second? Okay, here we go. I have a couple questions. Anybody else before me?
Is there a limit?
All right. 2522 in the first paragraph. I think you have to remove the head. It doesn't make sense. If you pull it up. I hope you all can see that. 2522.
What day though?
It's the A right before the paragraph. Or see what I'm talking, not paragraph. It's the, it's in, not parentheses. What is it called? Brackets. In between the right, A right before the bracket. In the first paragraph.
Brackets for 200.
Do you see what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Yeah, therefore the board shall approve, provide sufficient materials and staff for a libraries. Is that what you're saying?
For a library.
Yep, guys, yeah.
Okay. I think that
Okay, got it.
remove the A, and then student employment. Who is the permit officer position?
Vernon County registered deed. We don't do that here at the high school.
Because when I was reading through it, it sounds like we do it here in the high school.
We don't.
They give us a copy for 2 minute now.
Okay, all right. So it just has blank on there. So is that what should be put in there then?
What number is that?
Yeah, what number?
It's the student employment. Is it still 2522? Student employment.
Okay, we'll look at that.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Okay. And then policy 5540.01. Eliminating shall in it. It doesn't make sense. That sentence. 5540.01, which is investigations involving suspected child abuse.
I think it does.
It does? Didn't make sense to me.
We'll look at that too.
Okay. All right. That's all I've got.
Shall instead of should.
Pardon me?
Shall instead of should, because you shall, you need to do it.
Then will. Will? We will.
I think it's
must.
shall and should is the two words
Yeah.
we use.
Okay,
Should
it
is
just,
kind of like,
just,
you can get out.
it just didn't quite make sense to me. But if it's what they're saying, then all is good in the world. All right, with that, all in favor, vote by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you to the policy committee for looking through all of those. It's a lot of information. Thank you, Beth and Tom as well. The next is information, the 21-22 preliminary budget update, Baird summary, Baird 101 visuals. Mike? I think this is you.
So I captured the board, where we're at as far as the preliminary budget, 21-22. I'd say this year, and it's gonna change a lot. This year's budget is going to change a lot. There's a lot of decisions that, we heard about earlier tonight that will impact a lot of this and let alone what happens externally outside of with the state budget process, the federal government and the ESSER funds and everything like that. The Baird summary and the visuals are the summary for the board to review. They're not set in stone, but they do highlight just some of the different where we're at as far as surplus deficit and the fund balance where we would be at and everything like that. And obviously the current year 2021 numbers that are presented are estimates at this time also.
Any questions?
So are you budgeting in $200 per student aid increase?
No.
And what about enrollment? So
Enrollment-
we're on a 3-year,
Yeah.
but it's
enrollment,
actually
we're-
years 2, 3, and 4 back, right?
Yep, we're going, we're budgeting, not a return, let's put it that way. We are in a hold harmless, both in the revenue limit exemption and the aid. And the declining enrollment exemption helps also. An increase or a major decrease would definitely impact this in the future, but an increase wouldn't really change much, as it says right now. If we could get that per pupil on the revenue limit, that would be great. I don't foresee that right now happening, and we haven't built that in yet. So we'll see.
In your ESSER funds, do you think we're gonna get more, or do you have that number pretty accurate in your opinion?
I feel that number is very close to accurate. I mean, I don't think the final allocations are out, but I mean, everything I've seen keeps coming back to those same numbers. The ones they've announced, I think where we're at. Yeah, Tom, if you have anything.
No, I think there's a lot of debate, but it's not about us. Or, and some of the things that apply to us. There's a lot of debate happening with those, that third round of ESSER funding, but it's not about our district and our situation. So I would anticipate it being very close to that estimate.
That's one helpful thing.
Yeah, that's one, there, Mike, we've got something we can, we can say with some relative confidence as far as the budget.
And like I mentioned earlier, there was the ESSER fund that went to the schools, and that's actually a little bit more clear. There's other ESSER funds that are going to impact our school district, either through the E-rate formula, perhaps maybe something with early childhood, incentive grants type of thing, or something along those lines that we're not even aware of right now, and we're trying, we're talking to the people, and we're trying to make sure that we take advantage of all these funding options that we do have, understanding that we still have these ESSER funds that will address learning loss and bringing back some of what we lost over the last few years.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mike and Tom. I know this is more of a task than any budget that you have ever had. And thank you for your diligence to make sure these dollars are serving our students in our district at the highest level. I would love to say it's going to get easier, but it sounds like it isn't. So thank you for your work. Buildings and Grounds Committee update. Robert, would you like to update
I
us?
don't know, where should we start? Maybe we should start at the end or start at the beginning. I don't know. I guess I would like to start by sharing a comment that was made to us this evening earlier at our Building and Grounds Committee meeting, and that was the very positive comments about how our buildings have been taken care of over the years, how well our staff that's been taking care of those buildings has been doing, plus the board and administration looking at things that need to be proactively taken care of. And I think our electorate should be happy that we're keeping up their investment in the school system and the buildings and grounds area here. That doesn't mean that we don't have issues that have been identified. I think all of you have this booklet. They added some things this evening, a little more talking about, I guess I'm going to talk just a little bit about some of the doors and stuff that need to be replaced in the tech ed department, but there's doors and things like that. We know that they need to be replaced, but they've identified those. We're kind of got a challenge with the old bus garage. What can we do with that? They've earmarked quite a few $1,000s, like 400,000 to kind of fix it, but they don't know if that will fix it because of the water infiltration with salt on it into the rebar that's in those precast elements that are a major part of the floor for second story and ceiling for the first story. Also, the roof needs some work, and there's some other things in that building that adds up to 400,000. So what to do with that? They talked about our Better Futures. It's a building that needs some work there because it's 2005 and the carpets are showing some wear. And in 2005, when it was built, our electrical demands were somewhat different than they are today. Technology has really changed things in the school district, and so there's some updates that should be made there. And we've talked about some of these things, obviously, during the Building and Grounds meetings in the past. The outbuildings, there's some things that they've talked about. There's a possibility maybe of abandoning the old bus garage and put a heated shop at the I'm thinking here, let me get my bearings right. I guess it's on the south end of the newer bus storage barn. It's got some storage in there and their vans are in there. So there's a lot of things that they've looked at. The bus garage we're presently using, trying to distill down what's the best way to deal with the insulation that Angie put in, I think. I don't know.
Exactly.
When the library board was in control of that. But I think they're getting closer to a solution to what would be a permanent fix to that. everybody's kind of talked around it for several years, and we would have fixed it if we knew what would fix it, I guess is the answer. So when I get to the back of the book, they're talking 1.8 million for some updates at the elementary school spread over maybe 5 years, and 2.6 plus some change for the middle and high school. And some of the outbuildings, probably a little less than $1 million on those. And that would be if we razzed probably the bus barn, bus garage, and put that new addition on the south side of the storage shed there for a heated area. So not overwhelming, not a lot of surprises, other than I think I personally thought we needed to do a lot of things in the tech ed department, but maybe it's from what we were told, the space is adequate for the needs. Maybe there needs to be some things changed in how we utilize that space. Obviously, the doors, the tech ed doors need to be replaced, as I mentioned earlier. They won't be cheap because of the salt that we track in and the effect that has on metal components. So it's overall, I thought it was a really good report, a really positive report, a positive report about how the staff and administration worked with the CISA 10 folks, and a positive report that they were talking about doing things that in a little cheaper way, in terms of not using an architect or engineer to engineer for like a roof replacement or a door replacement, and not paying that 8.5% that most of the engineering firms would ask. So if there are any questions, I'll try to answer them, but I think we did the right thing with hiring CISA 10 and getting that unbiased opinion about our facilities. Any questions? Any additions from Matt, Angie, Tom?
I would just like to thank Tom and Mike for suggesting this. I think it was an excellent idea, and you can really see what a thorough job they did, as well as giving direction on what the actual needs are.
Next steps is try to make some type of a plan. We'd have some plans with the exceeding revenue caps. There's the ESSER funds, so it's going to take some mental gymnastics maybe by Mr. Brendel to figure out all these, where everything fits and how we could accomplish the things in a strategic manner going forward and not wasting dollars.
And there are some of these projects that were on there actually, Mike and Tom have already scheduled to take place over the summer. There were a few of them, so, and they're still working on some others.
Quite a bit of lighting in here. Some of the lighting is pretty old.
And they said that in 3 years it would pay back, which was good information. Thank you, Robert.
Well, thanks to the committee.
Bigley pool update.
I'll take that one. So we are, right, and actually we are getting more and more questions as to when we're going to open the pool. And the simple answer is right now, it's not wise for us to fill that pool because it does need to be recaulked after sitting here. Actually, I had a gentleman come and look at it with me who understands pools real well, and he said, yeah, you wouldn't be happy putting water in because you'd be draining water out to repair that soon. That being said, we've got a purchase order out to the vendor to do it. Getting them scheduled here has been a challenge for continuing to work on that. And then we, in looking at what our options are for operating the pool, I mean, we could always continue back to what we had done in the past, or we should probably take a look at whether or not now is the time for us to look at seeing if this pool would work in a year-round basis or as a recreational facility. that the community has indicated in pockets that they really do want. And so we reached out to who I think would be the most logical group, which is the Dow Family YMCA out of La Crosse, for some guidance and some help. And we have had a couple of really good meetings with them. And they are putting something together as an operating agreement that would involve them in operating our pool and us, basically funding it, for lack of a better word. I mean, I think that's what it would be. And in doing so, I think give us probably our best opportunity to see if this is going to go. Now, we haven't seen the numbers. We don't, it may not make sense for this community, and they know that. I mean, we have to start somewhere. So until we see that agreement, we don't know what that's gonna look like, and that'll be for the board to determine. I did ask for a status update on that, and I received a link this week that I'm supposed to let you all know that they're very interested in pursuing this opportunity to partner with the district to get the pool open and operational again. They're working on a draft memorandum of understanding, and they're working on a budget and that type of thing so that we can better understand what our commitments would be, and that we should be hearing from them in the next week or so. I think that's very positive. I think it's also wise to go slow. I mean, we're gonna make this work. We want to know what we're going into, and then we'll know, I guess, is kind of where I'm at. From our initial conversations, they have said repeatedly, they feel the YMCA, in addition to operating a pool, has a place in the city of Viroqua. They've often thought of Viroqua as a place for expansion, for the right size. We have active community members that want to be active. And so they're looking at this as an opportunity also to kind of see how things are going and everything like that. So hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have some really good information so we can have the conversation.
So is this something that you're thinking would happen this year, possibly working with the Y, or for the future?
It could, my thought would be starting with the Y when it makes sense for us to start with the Y. We can build a pool, we can operate the pool, we'd have to hire lifeguards, we'd have to, we know what we can do. And if then that transition happens in August or July, ideally it would have happened in May.
That's what I'm
You know what
wondering.
I'm saying? I mean,
Right,
we're not
yeah.
there, and there's no sense in feeling rushed into it.
That's what I was curious about. Okay.
We're excited about the opportunity, and we really are excited about providing that, that venue back to the community again. That has been a message I've heard over and over again in the conversations I've had with community members. So that is one that continues to come up, and I continue to get asked about.
Are you also thinking of trying to keep it open for the year?
Correct.
Okay.
All discussions to be had.
Yep.
Just wanted to see what your thoughts.
Yes.
Not committing you to anything.
Yes.
But if they're going to hire someone to operate the pool, yeah.
Okay. Good.
Mhm.
Any other questions? All right, we look forward to more information as you know more. The next item is the district administrator.
Yeah, so a lot to report here, but I'm going to condense it down to the best of my ability. You guys know I'm not very good at that. But as we're going forward, I think we continue to have these COVID-19 updates. We have currently one positive case, our first positive in the last 6 weeks. So we have been doing extremely well with that rate. And having a very limited number of quarantines compared to where we were before. We remember back to that November timeframe, we were scrambling pretty at a pretty incredible rate, not only for students but staff, and we are not in that position currently. A lot has happened, with masking throughout the communities, throughout Wisconsin, throughout the country. We are going to continue to rely on our experts in our county and our medical advisory team to help us navigate this new recommendation that has come out. We did receive a pretty direct guidance, and I did share that with you from DHS. That was last week, Wednesday, and saying, hey, hold tight right now, because yes, you can go without a mask if you're vaccinated. Unfortunately, most of our schools have a very large percentage of our people that are in these buildings not vaccinated. Now, they have opened it up to 12-year-olds and up, and we look forward to having another set of, group of high participation within that. And so hopefully, we can start to have some of these conversations as we move forward, again, with our medical advisory team, with our county, about when's the right time to transition away from mandatory masking. I am with every one of you, and I would much rather be having this meeting without that. But we also need to make sure that we're making the appropriate choices for our community and our families. WISE staff report, just a quick update. We submitted a clean report for licensure for all professional staff. We have to do that report every year, and Beth does a really nice job with that. And then just to keep you guys in the loop, we did meet. Who was in that meeting? Was that you and I, Pat? With the Division of Early Childhood?
Which meeting?
Yes. Okay, they all blend together right now, but we did meet with the Division of Early Childhood Education. And we did not have any kind of an agenda with that. What we were meeting for was really trying to gather data to see if there was a better way that we can meet the needs of our families. Because really, again, very similar to our visioning conversation, without that data, we don't really know. We can speculate. Hey, this is a need in the community, and oh, we've got the expertise to fill it. Or we can have those nice hard facts going, no, here's what our families need. And that can range from a variety of different services to wraparound care, to providing different types of even meals to our families. And so what they're doing right now is they're gathering data for us to be able to kind of put together, hey, here's what Viroqua has, here's what Viroqua needs, and maybe here's a potential for the school to partner with other outside organizations or funding sources to really make that happen. And so again, I did want to give you that update that we did meet with that. It was a very productive meeting. And again, just one of another piece to this major puzzle and how we're going to provide services to our community. And that's what we are. We're a service organization. Robert, you look like you have a question.
I do, but probably not for her.
Okay, so yeah, that's really it. As we're looking, there's a lot more for me to say, but the other big stories are in the administrator reports, and I have been told before, Mr. Kress, that I steal the spotlight sometimes in my administrator report. So I will not do that tonight. Any questions? All right, thank you.
All right, next, end of the year plans. Who would like to go first? So you don't steal someone. You know what, Sean, you never get to go first because you're in the middle. You can go first tonight.
I can go second or third.
No, you go first.
So,
Plus, I saw you biking tonight. It was so nice out.
so what did you? Yeah.
Mhm.
Just don't run me over.
I'm very cautious.
Down the country, it's kind of scary. So it's like every year, this is a very busy time of the year as we're trying to bring closure to this school year, and while the staff are here to get the feedback, anticipate and plan for next year. So there's a lot going on with next year's scheduling and meetings and what does it all look like. We are involved with continuous improvement meetings. Hiring is a very busy time. Calling references, scheduling interviews, interviewing. It's much more intense than. I always get excited with this opportunity and see what comes our way. And I forget like how demanding it really is when I get in there. So, and the last thing I want to say is we are trying, those texts I messaged the candidates that were hired tonight. I would like to tell them congratulations. So we are talking with the teachers and teams to try to do something I don't want to say unique, but something special for students this year. It's kind of an end of the year celebration. And what that looks like, we don't know yet because we don't have the plans. But so just for example, and it's always just kind of refreshing and neat to see what students think. So I was outside and some seventh graders, we were talking about this, and they approached me and said, "Can we do something special this year?" Absolutely. What would you like? What is something special to you? And they said, "Could we get Culver's ice cream and have some extra recess time?" I said, "That's very doable." "Could we get chocolate?" I go, "We'll get several flavors." I said, "You bet." And so, what students want isn't really, out of the limits and extraordinary. They just want something neat that respects them or that shows appreciation to them. So we're working on that. So that's it for me. If you have any questions.
The only thing I can say is when we were looking at the hiring, thank you, Beth, for sending the information, but there were not a lot of applicants.
No.
2, 4, something like that. And my under 0.
There was not those spots.
So
So I felt very fortunate in reading about the folks we did hire, actually very highly skilled, trained individuals. So I feel very lucky. But I understand your angst with hiring. Are we going to get any applicants that we want to hire?
with both our math interview team is very excited. We had 2 excellent finalists. We had 2 interviews. But just the state of applicants. Mike asked me, we had 5 applicants. He said, "Are you going to bring in all 5?" I said, "I'm trying." 3 of them did not return my call to schedule an interview, and neither did the references. Just a real quick story. So I called on one reference because I know this district. And so the person who I was talking to said, "Is this John Schneider?" And she was saying, I said, "This is." She goes, "I played Barry and I was sat next to you in band." So that was a really honest reference. So anyway, it was good. But yeah, so they know, and our counselor, school counselor, he's a 1-year high school counselor coming into middle school. He interviewed so well. I know Jen Oakert was very excited. It's exciting.
Really, we are very excited about the quality that we're getting, but I do think it's something we need to pay attention to as we move forward is really understanding the state of education, and those applicant pools that used to be very large not that long ago are not that large any longer. So we've talked about it as an admin team and trying to get creative as far as that recruitment process, but it is something that we're going to have to continue to work on as educators, and as a board we need to be aware of it.
And expressing that legislatively, to our representatives. I don't know how schools unite and district administrators unite to express that information, but they need to know what's going on. I mean, that's could be catastrophic.
It's getting scary.
Yep.
And then teachers leaving the profession, throw COVID in there. Okay, so thank you. Jason?
So our end of the year, we are happy to say ACT testing is done and AP testing ended today. We can turn the bells back on, John. And this year was a little unique for advanced placement testing because typically they do a 2-week window, and they decided to confuse us even more. So they kicked last Thursday out and didn't do any testing, but then had us test today. So it even kind of went into 3 weeks, but I had a lot of kids taking the test, which is always a great sign. We're also, I think similar to John, just trying to figure out how to, in a safe manner, do something to close out the year and celebrate things. We have seniors last day is next Tuesday. And I'm actually extremely proud of the seniors this year for a number of reasons, obviously. But one is this senior class is the first class I've had that in 15 years they have no countdown anywhere in the building. Some senior classes start at like 90. So I think it's, but I think, it's exciting that, and I think with all the craziness of the year, in some ways, you actually connect more with these classes, and like Sarah mentioned, the parents too, just because we've had so much communication. So our seniors, their last day will be Tuesday, then the Thursday of practice for graduation ceremony, and then graduation on the 29th. So we're monitoring the weather at all times because our hope is outside. I think last we looked, it was 68 and dry, which would be great. Because I think obviously we're planning on ceremony will probably be similar to last year, except more people. Band will be back, which actually adds a lot more people situation. So I think we're working through those plans and hoping to not have to do a plan B as much, and just because it would open up so many more avenues to be out there. So and then the underclassmen are here for 1 week following that, so we can already start the transition. But so definitely a busy end of the year. It's one of those surreal things because to some degree it feels like it's gone fast, but to some degree it feels like 6 years, worth of in the year too. So but as you can see, like from the students we brought, I mean, who wouldn't want to work with the kids we have in Viroqua?
Kind of along those lines then, Jason, if you're okay with that, we are looking at probably 2 or 3 board members to be up and helping us hand out diplomas and those types of things. I know a couple of you are directly involved, and I don't know which role you guys would like. So if we could get some feedback on that, it doesn't have to be tonight. On, do you want to be with your families? Do you want to be handing out the diplomas? We'd like to just hear that feedback, specifically from Vicky and Matt on that. And then obviously, if you're wanting to be involved, let us know. We'll get you involved in one way or another, but we're really trying to, obviously keep our numbers.
If you want me to mention you in my speech, just
There you
let me
go.
know.
There you go. Yep.
What's the fee?
So
Juice boxes.
just to raise of hands, who is interested in being on the stage? Raise your hand.
I have to talk.
Yeah.
I have consulting.
Yes.
Ethan doesn't want me on the stage.
There you go.
So wait a second, you have to talk?
It's my family.
Yep.
My student.
Mhm.
So you want to be on the stage?
No, she
No,
wants to
no,
talk to
no,
them and
no,
find out what they
to
want.
see where she wants to go.
Sorry.
Yep. We got some time, so just get back to us and
This
let
is
us
the
know.
prom chaperoning procedure. You have to get
Right.
approved by the child.
Where do you, exactly, and I think it's, each family is different, so.
If I'm on the stage, does it free up my 4th ticket?
Don't answer that, don't answer that. We are being recorded right now.
These are the problems you're dealing with on, I'm sorry. So, if there's a role, obviously the parents are first, but if there's a role for any of us, if someone would like to participate, I'm sure and everyone has been involved in the past. So if there's something without eliminating anybody's family members, obviously.
Are you trying to get math ticket?
No.
No, I think it's just exciting that we get to look at all these events and expanding things from what we had last year and getting as close back to normal as possible, especially for the students' sake.
Well, I think being at the awards program, it was just so wonderful to be at the awards program and,
Now you're stealing my thunder.
Well, no, I thought you were finished. I thought you were
Somebody's got to.
Oh, you go. I thought you were done.
No, you haven't actually talked about awards program yet.
Okay, go ahead.
That's not, yeah, that's.
Oh, it's later
Yeah, he's saving it.
on. Okay.
You can chime in then, though.
All right.
You can
No,
do
you
that.
know what? How about this? How about if you go ahead and you can cover the next area because you're already speaking? How about that?
There you go.
That'd be great. So, like I kind of mentioned, it's been great to do activities again. and I think I probably mentioned last month, students and parents are so much more receptive when you tell them we can do activities than cancel. But it was great. We were able to have prom out at Gardy's Party Barn. We had roughly 100 students, juniors, seniors. No visitors from outside schools. Some for here is either for pictures or for coronations. We had 2 coronations. Kathy and Mike helped chaperone that night. It was just a great opportunity to give kids a sense of normal back and appreciation. Even as students left that night, which they kept talking to DJ into doing one more song. So they left just before dark. But even as they left, the appreciation they were sharing with people as they left, just and just not only the excitement from the kids, but even like the parents and staff members that were like serving the food. You would swear they haven't been able to serve food to people for like 2 years, you know, so just those type of excitement things. So that was great. The honors program, we tried doing again with everything, a safe program. And so it was fairly similar to in the past. We limited the amount of people. We did decide to go with a second podium. So we had the students all speak into one podium. And then we had the adults speaking to another. The students were great in the practice because in the practice we make them all say their name and where they're going. And so in the practice, they're all like, can we take our mask down for that? And yes, if you are at the podium by yourself, take it down, speak clearly. Just don't leave the podium before you're done speaking, because it'll trail off type of thing. So, and I think it was just over $118,000 given out. I mean, our community, including the foundation, is just so very supportive. And a lot of the community members came to present. It was just great, but it moved pretty quickly to go through it. So, and then planning graduation. I mean, we're definitely in the midst of that planning. And like I said, hopefully weather holds out. I was at the tennis match tonight. Mr. Booty and I were talking a little bit, and theirs is this Saturday, but seniors only get out 2 days earlier than ours because their seniors have to stay through Friday. But like, I think this Saturday's weather right now is looking sketchier than next Saturday. So you always have those type of discussions, and we talked back regarding last year, because if you remember, since we were late July last year, it was getting a little warm by the time ours was done, and Westby's hadn't even started yet for the day. So my wife would not let me text Mr. Booty last year and say, hey, it's great sitting in the air conditioning now. But just to go through those logistics and try to plan things. And, you know, we had somewhat of a framework of something that worked last year. Now we can just grow and expand that, and just try to, you know, give some sense of normalcy and celebration to the students.
Any questions? So thank you. It's been an amazing year, and you have really worked to try to make everything as easy and normal as possible. It's impressive. The awards program, I love that every year, and it's a real nice way when you're talking about this, what we're going to do moving forward, bringing community members in, and think what an outstanding group of students there was in this particular grade. Not that they aren't always, but that was remarkable. Jenny and Chris, as always, do a fantastic job. It's a well-oiled machine. Not all districts are like that. So thank you.
And thanks to the Lions for sponsoring every year. And it's just
Roger did a nice job too.
Yeah, kind of echoing what John said. It's a busy time of year. We have one footed this year, one already looking forward to next year, but wrapping up assessments this week. Staffing, hiring, room assignments, schedules for next year. But then also balancing it with some teachers trying to still have those fun activities, maybe not quite to the extent they normally would, but there's some walking field trips that they can still do safely. The library is going to zoom in to promote their summer program. school-wide carnival last day of school, so hopefully the weather's nice, where we can, instead of taking the whole school down, take grade levels and then still keep them separate by class. Apparently, the principal will be in the dunk tank that day. Stop by and.
You're not feeling like you're gonna be sick that last day? You're not feeling a cold coming on?
I will
Case
warm
the
up my
superintendent.
refrigerator.
The nose goes, is that how that works?
But I preached about, a little more than a year ago, being interviewed here and accepting my personal philosophy for education is I want students to be happy, healthy, and successful. And I preach that weekly to staff. I don't know if they've caught on yet that I say that every week in my message. But I don't think you could ask for, to do that anymore, any better than this year in these times. To have students still be happy and, the mask is just kind of what we do now, and some of the things we do that they're just used to it. The healthy part, takes the community and the parents and the kids to all follow those things. I don't think any of us knew if we'd make it to Thanksgiving or before we shut down permanently. And, we really have had a great year. And, again, success is measured by some of our assessments, but also all these other measures that some of the smaller steps and some big steps. So it's been a whirlwind of a year, but it's been pretty amazing for my first year back. So it's been good. And that's again, the community, the staff, just everyone had to do their part. And it wasn't easy when we look back and kind of forget that this is what we do now. And we look back to August and those planning days, and there was a lot of stress and anxiety and probably anger at some decisions. And, I don't think it could go any better than it's gone.
Well, I've also heard parents talking about, they tried to make the best decision for their child, whether virtual or not virtual, and some wish they would have been in the buildings, and you understand how difficult those decisions were, and you don't know if you're making the right decision or not, and you all have just risen to the occasion and thought of every single thing that you could think of moving forward with all the millions of unknowns. So.
And just to kind of, just 1 second, to kind of elaborate on that, Pat and I, and all of the administrators, we talked about this. I mean, it took a all hands on deck approach with, there was not one position in this district that stayed the same from the year before, not one. When you look at custodians, and you look at maintenance, when you look at teachers and paras and food service, administration, everybody's got their whole lives turned upside down, and it's all, we're at that moment, and I think that's what's exciting. We're exhausted. It's May, guys, and it's in schools. We're exhausted. Do not get me wrong. But at some point here, we're going to take a look at this and go, all right, if a pandemic can't stop us from giving kids a great experience academically, socially, and in every way, what can stop us, right? I think that's when that moment hits, it's going to be really cool. And I think we've got a lot to be proud of. We haven't made all the perfect decisions, but I think we've made mistakes, absolutely. But I think in the end, again, if we can provide what we've provided in this type of situation, I don't see a situation where we can't provide this. And again, that's an exciting time.
Any questions? Kathy?
What we got
No,
next?
we
Okay.
haven't had it.
Oh, I thought you were gonna give all years of.
Oh, I can keep going.
No.
Yep, just keep it rolling, keep it rolling.
So 4K expansion, and I gave a pretty lengthy pre-read, but I'll try to kind of summarize that. What staff and administration recognized, pretty early on this year, like, how can we reevaluate our early childhood program? So we're proposing, instead of 2 days a week, offering 4 full days a week next year. And the biggest thing that I kept coming back to in our discussions with our pre-K staff and with Tom is, how can we better meet the needs of our community, meet the budget of the district. But most importantly, how do we meet these kids' needs at an early age of their social, emotional, physical, academic needs of our 4K kids in a more consistent way. So if we went to four full days, it provides access for programming for families. They don't have to look at neighboring districts that may offer 4 full days compared to 2 full days. It's definitely an equity strategy to balance things out. There's more consistency and carryover. It really reduces that multiple care during the week for families. Look at, gosh, I need childcare on Monday, and my kid's gonna be in school on Tuesday, and I need childcare again on Wednesday, but not Thursday, but again on Friday for this week. For safety reasons, kids went 2 days, and then they had 5 days school off. So I don't know how that age, 5 minutes is a long time, let alone 5 days to kind of remember what they were doing. So to just provide that consistency and reduce that multiple care for families and for kids, which would reduce the stress on families, and then narrow the achievement gap. We know the importance of early interventions. If we look at, gosh, we can provide a quality education for our 4-year-olds with twice as many days that they're receiving now. And we know just adding multiple days is a strategy, or we do that for every age group. But if it's the quality, and just think how much more learning and curriculum could be provided for those students with 4 full days. And again, the goal isn't to cram as much as we can down to an earlier age. It'll just happen naturally because they'd be here 4 full days. We're not looking at, hey, gosh, we're going to be getting into multiplication and getting crazy with 4-year-olds because they're here 4 days. It would just happen naturally that they're here, that consistency every day, with 1 day off a week compared to if you're 2 days and they have 3 days off a week. Could be a huge early intervention to just prepare them for kindergarten and going forward. Again, the day would try to stick with what they're doing now. Their essential learning standards stay the same. The pace of the day would be the same as what they do now, with maybe even more of a rest time in the afternoon than they already provide that.
I see one head nodding.
And we also understand that may be a hard thing where a parent might say, my kid isn't ready for full days. We couldn't provide a half-day option for families. They would have to provide the transportation. This is kind of, again, this is a concept, and then we can drill down to the details of, our enrollment. And again, this year's a little tricky with not a typical child find and child development days. But that dictates staffing, how many kids in a room, switching of rooms or expanding which room pre-K is in. What our daily schedule, and that would be working with the teachers and the assistants. And then some of those opportunities that Tom mentioned of going forward, this could just be one. Seems like a giant step, could be a small step towards some even more bigger and more exciting things. How this impacts Montessori would be the same. We don't want to have a different programming for Montessori compared to our traditional 4K. We want them to choose one or the other based on the curriculum, not necessarily, well, they offer 2 days or 4 days or half days, or we really want those 2 to be the same. But how does that impact Montessori when they have pre-K and kindergartners in the children's house room? So those are all the things we're considering and figuring out the details. But in talking with the pre-K staff and Tom and I, the discussions we've had pretty early on, I would say early on, like, how does this work with only 2 days? How do you build any kind of consistency for that age group? So I think this could, when we talk about narrowing achievements and long range things that could really have a benefit, this could be one that could be a game changer to get kids really ready to enter school. They're here 4 full days rather than 2.
Yeah, again, kind of elaborating on that, Pat and I have spent a lot of time, as you can tell, just as we're going through this, and And you can waffle back and forth on, waiting for, budget, right? And saying, okay, can we, hopefully they can, reimburse at 1.0 versus the 0.6 that they do currently reimburse at the state level. And we're at the point where in the end, when you strip everything back, this is better for the kids, and this is better for the community. And when you start with that as the starting point, we can get a lot accomplished if we can keep that in mind. And again, there are a lot of hurdles, there are a lot of logistics to figure out, but I think in the end, I think it's very hard to argue now, that we provide a safe place, we provide 2 meals and snacks, and we also are providing an education with extremely high quality teachers that are providing something that, again, because they're not, more time with those individuals is not going to hurt any kid. It's only going to help.
Any questions? I did ask that the child care providers in the area having a conversation with those folks so they're aware of what that might look like. And you shared that you have met with them or spoken with them, because I thought that was important as well. And I don't believe that our 4K program was ever designed to be there. It originally started 4 days a week in the mornings or in the afternoons for some.
I'm getting a 5. I'm getting a 5 signal.
Was it
5 days
5?
a
Oh, I
week.
thought you did home visits. No, it was 5. So I am wrong again.
To have a choice, they can do 2 to 5 days per week.
Gotcha.
Okay. Okay. So it was a busing issue, it was a financial issue, and that decision was made anyway. And so I'm very happy that you're moving forward with that. And you were also going to find that children have not been around other children, so there's a whole social emotional issue that's going to be stronger than ever, not just for this incoming group for the next couple of years. And so more important than ever to have that component. And maybe it'll become earlier at some point, which wouldn't be a bad thing either. So thank you for that work, and just making sure that child care providers are aware of the decisions that you make.
Does Deb, do you have anything else that you wanna?
We're excited. And well, it'll be fun to see what we can do with it and where we'll go. There's a lot of unknowns yet, but that's kind of the way we've flown lately.
Thanks for coming tonight, Debbie.
So I think it's on this 4 days a week, and off Wednesday, or
That would be the preferred day off, yes. And then there's still that. child
would
off,
would that create a childcare problem in that all the kids will be needing childcare on one specific day?
They do now. Well, it's always been Wednesdays.
Wednesdays have been off
Yeah,
for
currently
everybody.
as well.
And it is a problem for some families. It has been.
We can look at, again, we'll evaluate that and try to problem solve or help as much as we can with that as well. But yeah, currently that's what it is. Yeah, right now anyway, everybody's off.
And it has,
Yeah.
Hudson's in 8th grade, and it was that way for him. It's been that way.
Since we've
I
gone.
just gotta enjoy the granddaughter before she's going to school.
There you
So you can
Yeah.
have Wednesday.
I get Wednesday, all right.
And you know what? You could probably take 40 other kids on.
There you go.
Making money, Rob.
Yeah.
You seen the movie Daddy Daycare?
They're very helpful. They're very helpful.
There you go.
All right.
All right, yeah, I shared with you the mental health awareness survey that we did as a portion of our mental health grant that we applied for. This was given to all of our staff. We had we had 95 plus responses, so I think it was a good overview of what we had. These are questions that were given to us that other schools have also used. So it was not something that I developed or thought of. But it has some interesting
interesting things as we move forward, and we'll use them with different groups. As I said, we'll use them with our student services group. We'll use them with the compassion resilience team that's being formed. We'll be using them with the AID team, as well as our administrative team, to kind of look at programming initiatives, things that we can use them for. A few things that just really stood out for me as I was looking over this, and I see something different each time I go through it. What a caring staff that we do have and caring for each other. The vast majority felt that if they had a concern, they would go to each other. So they're really very, very caring for each other. Over 76% said that they would be interested in incorporating social emotional learning within their classrooms. I thought that was very high. And I thought it was pretty fantastic. It also shows how effective our counselors are. Over 60% of the people, if the students had a problem, they said the teachers felt that they went to the counselors, or they went to their connected with their counselors or their school sites. So the student services portion in this school is doing what we need them to do and working really, really hard at it. There were some things about mandatory reporting. About 70% felt that they understood it and were comfortable with it. There were 22% was neutral, and 7% was uncomfortable with it. Well, and it's an uncomfortable situation, but that would be something that we would need to maybe have more programming with, or more webinars or something like that. So those were the biggest things. When we're looking at things that we were strong against, strong staff relationships, genuinely care about students, the health and wellness program, where it was a positive, and many supports and positions available that other schools may not have, with our counselors at our sites and things like that. Added communication is needed, open and communication. There are definitely some staff that felt that when they had mental health issues themselves, that they felt they needed more support. That was clear, and something that we need to continue to work on. So some of those things, it's not a typical year. COVID probably added into some of that, but this was a first step to looking at what can we do and how can we support these staff as well as the students. I went over it very quickly, and there's a lot in there. So
How is our employee assistance program working effectively? Does it need to be tweaked? Especially in light of what's happening with COVID. Part of another organization, and we had to change because we had to offer, what do you call it, the next tier of services.
yes, that's a very good question. That's one that we will probably need to look at.
And we can look at those usage rates and things like that. Employee assistance programs are so different, depending on what the offerings are, but there is also the education piece that every district needs to do better at. Is, hey, we have services in place that sometimes our employees don't even know about.
And that was one of the issues too, how to access our community mental health things. And we have MOUs with 2 right now. We have had 3 in the past. Counselors, community counseling, private counselors, and how to access that, and teaching our staff how to access those things. That was one thing that was clear that came out of this, that they need a better understanding of how to do that.
They need to be encouraged that it's not their fault that they might need some assistance. It's for because they're good and we want them to get the services they need. Because they're extremely important to us, our staff, to our community and to our students. So anything we can do there is, especially in light of what's happened in the last year, 14 months is, I think it's pretty key.
And sometimes when we're working with something, we don't realize that everyone doesn't know the same information that you know. I know working with Western, we thought everyone knew all of this information that was available, only to find out 70% didn't of the staff. And so it seems like it's all there, but it really isn't sometimes.
It takes strength to go and get some help. It's not a weakness, it takes strength.
I also saw in here about a third of our staff that responded felt that they had the need for some type of assistance or.
It's amazing how many people
It's-
utilize
yeah,
programs.
and I don't know if that's unusual for this year or if that's a typical response. I don't know.
I'm not certain. That was. Yeah, so there were many things that were telling when we looked into that. So we'll be utilizing it in a lot of ways. I'm planning on sharing it out with the staff tomorrow. I wanted to do that with you guys first, and then if it was clear, then I will forward that out to the staff as well tomorrow.
I think it's great information for people to know, you know, the person that's working side by side with you. There, you know, it's a very good turnout for this group.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure when you send that out, maybe you'll send some information of who to contact and some things like that too, especially if some of our staff doesn't know where to go.
Yep.
That's a good point. Any other discussion? With that, we have a closed session, and before we do that, anybody else want to add anything?
I know it's.
I hate to do it, but I'm gonna. We have next Wednesday night a 5K called the We Made It 5K. It was born by Krista Woodward back over a year ago, planning a Couch to 5K training program. And then COVID happened and that all got shut down. And then so we started talking about having, as part of our wellness plan again this year, and she just didn't feel there was enough time to do it. Meanwhile, we were trying to find a way to celebrate making it for the year. And so what we thought is, you know what, why don't we have a 5K, walk, run, whatever people want. And at the end, we'll grill some hot dogs, brats, have just a little picnic. And so we started looking at it and called a couple of very generous local businesses. And BART Incorporated actually, when we just asked if they would want to help contribute to offset some of the costs, they said, actually, we'll buy the t-shirts, we will buy the brats and hot dogs, and we'll send our staff over to grill it for you, and as an appreciation for what the district has done. So the registration for it closed today. 79 of our staff members have signed up for it. We're gonna have 140 or so walkers with their families. It could be a very, very fun and enjoyable picnic. And it's next Wednesday. You guys are all welcome. I didn't get you the information, so you're not gonna get a t-shirt. I'm sorry. But you're all welcome to stop over and see everybody.
What time is it?
The walk's supposed to start at 4. They were trying to figure out when people would be ready to eat, and I said, some will be ready at 4:15. Some will, Pat will probably come strolling in about 4:15 if he's running that thing. And but no, and it could be 5 o'clock or so. I mean, it's 5K, it's 3 miles. So we're going down Broadway, up down Court Street, pretty much past the Bethel home, back down Garfield, back up by the tennis courts, and back up Johnson, and end up at the elementary playground.
And the starting point is
Kind of the same. Elementary playground. right,
elementary
Pat?
playground.
Yep. So it's the We Made It 5K.
Can I bring my dog?
Yes. As long as you don't bring them out of school. You can walk with your dog.
I'll just bring my horse.
There you go. Maybe a real quick.
And I got to see the signups and just the comments, like Kathy said, I mean, so many people are just so, they just want normal and they want, you know, camaraderie or whatever you want to, I mean, they're just excited about it, so.
Is it a fundraiser for something? Is
No.
that- No.
No, it was not even intended to be a thing. I mean, it's just a event.
You need to know if we'll be there.
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. Thank you for telling us. That sounds fun.
With
And
that,
thank you to Barb Hilliard, Ryan Incorporated, and some board members for the offsetting of the costs, and some door prizes and some just nice.
Fantastic. So before that, I brought some Buster bars for everyone. And I need to go to the bathroom before we go into closed session.
I have one thing I'd
What's
like to
that?
add, and that is, I think as a board, we should thank our administrative team and our staff for the year that they put in. The CDC knows about Viroqua and what good job they have done with COVID. I made sure my niece, and she's with the CDC, and they're talking about the good things that have happened here in Viroqua. And I'm so proud of our administrative team and our staff for what they've done for this year. I'd like to give them a round of applause. Thank you.
Your support made it possible too. It worked, you know, it's a team. It's
Team
awesome.
effort.
Okay. I'll let you go in.
So Beth, where are those?
Yeah, are we gonna close
taking
it?
a recess and then going into closed
Or
session?
can we?
Yes.
Okay,
Just
so
a
I
couple
just need
minutes.
to record that.
Yep.
Couple minutes.
Do we want to, pause the recording?
Okay, I'll take
Yeah,
that.
go close and then we'll just take a break after. Go, yeah,
Okay.
close it up.
Consider a motion move to close session pursuant to
So
Wisconsin
moved.
statute
Second.
19.851C to consider employment,
Aye.
promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the government body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, professional staff conduct, Wisconsin statutes 19.851 each deliberate or negotiate the purchase of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session potential property transaction. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Second,
I'll-
voice vote. Kim?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
We're in closed session.
Now I can.
Go ahead, go ahead.
She said I could.
You don't end Marina.
You don't have the arena, you just have the recording. Yep.
Oh, gosh.
Marina, he was gonna shut you off.
Okay.
No.
Bye-bye.